What's going on, people? Today I will be catching up on some May reviews coming up for you guys next. So, if you guys haven't noticed, I have been kind of behind on my May reviews. I have a whole stack of them right here, and I will be getting right into it. Starting off with this little guy right here, Hellboy to the Golden Army. This one, I have always really liked this movie, and it's not my favorite Hellboy movie, and it's not my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie, but it is a very good one. I would say that this one, it has a villain that is kind of lacking, and it goes on many different tangents that I don't really feel like it needs to, but the overall character of Hellboy is so solid here, and Guillermo del Toro's creature design is just on point. And I feel like as far as creature design goes, this is the one to see. And as far as the video quality here goes, you get a definite bump up in detail and in clarity, specifically in detail when you're talking about the characters here, and specifically all of the creatures here have so much detail to them that it literally just looks unbelievable. But where this really sticks out is the HDR. I feel like it just pops off of the screen from the very beginning, where you have that scene where it goes into the whole battle of the Golden Army and everything like that. It literally just pops off the screen in such an excellent way, and Hellboy's red body pops. So much of it does, and I feel like this is definitely the way to see this. I don't feel like it's a 10 out of 10, but it is the next best thing. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. And as far as the audio goes, we are given a bump up to a DTS-X track, and I love talking about DTS-X. I don't feel like I do enough. Not a whole lot of stuff comes out in this format. And this is a very bombastic, very playful track with like a lot of height speaker work, and all of that is excellent. Bass response is great here, but unfortunately it is so good that it completely drowns out the center channel, and for that I had to strain to hear the vocals at times. Specifically during action scenes, I literally had to check to see if my center channel was actually going out. And then I popped in Black Hawk Down, and I realized that it wasn't. It was just this mix. And for that, I am going to give this an 8 out of 10. It isn't everything that I wanted, but it provides a decent bump up from the Blu-ray. Coming up next, I did pick up Black Hawk Down. Of course I did. This is a movie that it's a really damn good Ridley Scott film. And even though it definitely has a lot of the style of Gladiator, as far as the visual flair of this particular movie goes, I do feel like it's just a good war movie. And I liked all of the characters. In fact, with the lack of character development that this movie has, I did feel like I would just lose the characters, specifically when they go into battle. When they all put their suits on, they become like interchangeable. But no, because I was actually able to distinctly point out each character just by how they were acting on screen and their personalities, and it definitely comes through here. That is awesome, and this is just a kick-ass film. I always really, really liked Black Hawk Down. And as far as the video quality here goes, this is a 4K DI, and I didn't mention it, but Hellboy was as well. And even though this is definitely a grainy mix, so grain haters, you might not like this one, but it is definitely loyal to the source here. And I just feel like beyond the grain, you still get a decent amount of an upgrade as far as the detail goes. You get a whole lot of detail, especially when you get into the war scenes, and you can see every particle that is flying across the screen. And clarity is definitely bumped up along with depth. There is a whole lot more depth to this transfer. And then when you're talking about HDR, this is a heavily stylized movie. So a lot of the oranges and yellows just pop off of the screen a lot more than on the Blu-ray. And specifically, I noticed it a lot in the sunlight during the daytime scenes. Black levels are impressive as well here. This is just a damn good visual experience that I'm going to give a 9 out of 10 to. And then when you're talking about audio here, man, this Dolby Atmos track is definitely where it is at. This is an aggressive, fully immersive mix that I love from start to finish. Vocals are top notch, and along with that, you get just that kick-ass bass that we wanted from this movie, and it is here. Bass response is excellent. Surrounds are in heavy use, along with the height speakers. Now, the height speaker work here is amazing, and specifically when you get into the battle scenes and you hear the choppers going over your head, outstanding. 10 out of 10. Reference quality material. Pick this up. I actually picked up the Steelbook for this one. Next, I kind of picked this up as kind of just mixing things up because I noticed that the majority of people haven't been reviewing Hannibal in 4K. Now, this is actually Kino Lobster's first attempt in 4K, and it is a pretty damn good one. The movie itself is just, good. It's not Silence of the Lambs. I don't really feel like it's even Manhunter. But you know what? It is more of a B-movie, sleazy kind of good time. And hey, Anthony Hopkins is not as good as in Silence of the Lambs, but he's still good. And as far as the video quality here goes, this was actually given a 4K digital intermediate with Dolby Vision support. Kino Lobster is definitely stepping up their game when it comes to 4K as far as the visuals here goes, and really I didn't expect much from this. I have never liked how this movie looked. It has all of the trademarks of Ridley Scott when it comes to this particular time in his career. The choppy editing, the missing frames, the camera work that is very handheld and very sporadic, and just it literally just hurts my head to watch sometimes when it comes to Ridley Scott's films of this era of his career. They just have an aggressive way of editing and filming that I just do not agree with. I feel like it is an assault on my senses, but it actually holds up really well here. This is a grainy movie. This was shot on film. It will always have that look to it, but this is heads and tails better than the Blu-ray. Detail is so much better here. You get a whole lot more detail in facial features and surroundings. Depth is so much more stepped up. Clarity is really damn impressive here. As far as the aggressive way that this camera work is, I feel like it should have been a lot softer, but it wasn't. And HDR is subtle here, but it is noticeable, specifically in a lot of lighting scenes where harsher lighting happens. You do have a lot more of a punch to them, and the HDR definitely helps out with facial tones as well, along with the Dolby Vision. Now, it is subtle, but impressive. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. And as far as the audio here, this was actually given a DTS HD 5.1 mix, so we don't have a Dolby Atmos mix here, and it is fine. It is perfectly serviceable. It's kind of front heavy, but it is still very good. And vocals are impressive, and bass response is good when needed. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Next up is Godzilla. Now, this is a movie that I actually saw in theaters in 1998, and I have always not really liked it. Um, Everything that real Godzilla fans want from a Godzilla movie is absent here. There is no depth to this story. There is no depth to any of these characters. Roland Emmerich, the director here, is just kind of on autopilot. He does these kind of films just on a whim. There are so many of them. And I feel like this is actually one of his worst films. I have never really liked it. And the CGI, we'll talk about it, but it is not held up good here. And getting into the video quality of Godzilla, this was actually given a 4K digital intermediate. And I would say that it looks pretty damn good and crisp and clear, and a lot more detail when it comes to facial features and the overall city of New York and all of that. It's just very well recreated here in 4K. HDR is a really good standout here. I do feel like it has a lot of punch to it, and just the colors of everybody but Godzilla, and we'll talk about that in a second, they have a lot more of a pop to them. Now, when we're talking about Godzilla, the matting and the CGI has never looked good here, and man, I do feel like it has never looked worse than in this release. It is just bad, especially when his foot is stomping around the city and you just see his foot coming down. It just looks bad. With that being said, I am going to give this an 8 out of 10. It is still a good transfer with just bad matting and CGI. And as far as the audio here is concerned, this was actually upgraded to a Dolby Atmos mix, and this Dolby Atmos mix is really, really damn good. Speaker separation is on point here. This movie has always sounded great, and this is just such a bump up. The entire sound mix is just so aggressive. Surrounds are very aggressive, and this is just a wide and very immersive mix, and height speaker work is on point. Whenever you hear choppers above you, it's coming from your height speaker work. A lot of Godzilla's effects come from your height speakers. It is just really well done. I would actually give this a 9 out of 10. Next up, I actually picked up Crank in 4K Ultra HD. This is the definition of just a kick-ass punk film, you know? I do feel like that this movie, it just doesn't care about offending anybody, and I do really like it for that, and it's just a really, really good time. A foolish good time, but a good time, and I really do like Jason Statham in it. I feel like this is one of his better performances. And when you're getting into the video quality here, this was actually given a 4K digital intermediate with Dolby Vision support. And I just wanted to get into how this movie was filmed, because it has a lot to do with the actual quality of this disc. This was actually filmed all digitally with a mixture of 1080p and standard definition cameras. And you can definitely tell the difference between the two. And I feel like in 4K, it just makes it even more noticeable. The softness of the standard definition camera, it really shows here. And sometimes they switch between it in the same scene. So it can make this transfer pretty inconsistent. And that is unfortunate. But everything that is shot in 1080p does have a level of clarity that is more along the lines of what I would expect. But it just really shows its age here. And that is unfortunate. Detail does, it's a bump up from the Blu-ray, without being a real big bump up. You know, close-ups, they do have a lot more detail to them, and it's that kind of a thing. You know, I've said it so many times. It's the standard bump up that 4K Blu-rays have. And then when you get into HDR, you know, a lot of the yellows and the crazier color palette of this movie is really given a nice pop here, and that is really amplified by the Dolby Vision. So that is really impressive, and as a whole, I would give this a 6 out of 10. I really do feel like I have to knock this for not being consistent, but let's face it, with the way that this movie was filmed, it's not going to be that standout that people might be looking for. But we are given a bump up to a Dolby Atmos sound mix here, and it is awesome. It has all of the craziness of this movie that you would really want this sound mix to have. Surrounds are aggressive. The field of sound is really damn big, and it is just a big bump up from the Blu-ray's audio quality. You know, you have a bass response here that is really excellent, and high speaker work. I feel like it at times it's pretty damn good, specifically when you go into first person mode. And you know, it's pretty fun to hear things from inside yourself, and sometimes that comes from the height speakers. So kudos to Lionsgate for doing that. And that is it for my 4K catch up, guys. Look forward to all 4 Batman films that will be coming out on June 4th. I will be reviewing separately all of those Batman films on separate video reviews that you guys will be able to check out all throughout the week. I'll be putting them out there, and I have been working hard at scripting them through and really making them the best possible reviews for movies that I loved growing up, and we'll, you know, talk about that when that time comes. So if you're excited about all of that, let me know down below, and hit that subscribe button down here so you know when those videos come out, because it will be a total of 8 videos for 4 releases. So it's a lot to do, but I will definitely do it for you guys, because you guys are awesome. I don't even say it because you know it. And I will see all of you next time.